I wanted to share with you how I track my reading for 2026. In 2025, which is technically the first year of me starting to read consistently, I actually track my reading with 3 different apps, which is insane. I know. Like every time I finish a book, I would go on Goodreads, Storygraph, and Fable. I used to also track or log my daily reading, which is again kind of insane. So for 2026, I decided not to track it on all of those 3 apps. I'm probably going to just keep Goodreads for now because I have everything else before going into Storygraph and Fable on Goodreads, and I feel like majority of authors, other readers still use Goodreads to this day, even though they are technically owned by Amazon. I also don't really update Goodreads in real time. Once I'm done with a book, I would just go on Goodreads, pick the book, and add them to my read shelf, and then add the dates that I read them. With that being said, for 2026, I decided to actually create my own tracker. I'm not saying that I created a new app for myself, but I am using Notion to track my reading. It's also going to act like my reading journal. I think at the end of 2025, when I was trying to plan for 2026, I was going to actually create a reading journal with like a journal, what an actual journal like most people do, but thinking about having to update them every single month or having to go into my journal maybe almost on a daily to update my reading and stuff, I just feel like that's gonna take a long time. And I know that some people love it because it's like their downtime, their cozy hobby time, but I don't think that's gonna be for me. I used to have a bullet journal way back when, but I don't know if I want to do a reading journal that way because I did buy a reading tracker type of thing for 2025, and I think I only fill in like 5 or 8 books, and then after that I abandoned that journal. So I think if it's on a computer, for me at least, it would just work better. I'm going to go on my computer now and start a screen recording for Notion. What you see is my kind of like main dashboard. I call it Sarah's Books World because I have like other journal here that is kind of connected to here, but anyways, let me just show you around. This is my Notion reading tracker. The homepage, I guess, it's just very simple. On the top here, I have a little block section called My Books. So I have a tab that is for my currently reading book. I'm currently reading Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I started it, I think, yesterday, and I'm already on page 87, which is, I think, pretty good. That means I really like the book, and I read 80 pages in a day. And then I also have a tab here for all of my March 2026 TBR. I did pick out 5 books for March. I read one already, which is The Striker, and then I'm currently reading Caraval. And I think next I'm going to pick up Project Hail Mary. We shall see. And I also have another tab here for my recent read. If I want to look at what books I read recently, I can go here and take a look at it. And then if we scroll down a little bit, I have my series tracker block, and then I also have a few different tabs here. For example, let me go to the all series tab. This one has all of the series that I currently have in my books database. Also, in a minute, I will show you what that looks like and how all of these blocks come together basically. So these are all of the series that I plan to read eventually, and also the series that I physically have in my personal library, as well as some of the series that I read last year that I borrow from Libby. So all of them are here. I also have just a few status here. I have the series status. These are all of the series that I haven't started. These ones are the series that I either already picked up the first book and I'm kind of in the middle of the series. There's also one series that I think I will DNF, which is the Bellinger Sisters series. And then I also have reading status, meaning if I am reading any of the books currently or not. But I also have things like ready to continue, which means that I probably am in the middle of the series and I am ready to continue with the next book. And I also have a next book status. So if I'm currently reading something, like right here, this is the Caraval series. I am currently reading Caraval, so the next book status I have is currently reading. So it will show me that I'm currently reading a book from a series. But basically, like I said, I divided them into different tabs. I have my currently reading series, which is Caraval. Ready to Continue has all of the books series that I am ready to continue. Like, I do have the physical copy in my personal library and I have 20 of them. And then this one, I have all of the series that I don't have a physical copy of, so I could either borrow it or actually buy it. This one is what I call up to date, which means that I did read all of the books that is currently out. For example, Ghosted is B.K. Borison's holiday series, which the first book was Good Spirits. I already read that last year. And I know that the second book, Grimm's Tidings, is coming out, but it's technically not out yet. So this series is under the up-to-date series. And of course, I also have series that I haven't started. There are 37 of them, which is kind of crazy. I have kind of like put in the books to read next, which is the first book in the series, but I haven't put them into all of the series, so maybe I will when I'm bored. Okay, let's move on to the other block that I have. I have my pre-orders kind of like section. This one, I just kind of created a separate database. It's not part of my books database because I don't really want to connect them together. But basically, this one just have all of the books that I pre-ordered that is coming to me in 2026. There are still 12 books that are coming. And also, I have canceled a few of them. I canceled 8 pre-orders, as you can see here. And the reason is because I still have other books by the authors that I haven't even read. And I also have series by these authors that I haven't even started. So like, for example, Elle Kennedy is coming out with a new book called Love Song. And I think that's going to be a part of a new series. And I have not read the Elle Kennedy series that I have currently. So I decided to cancel the pre-order for now. And then if I change my mind, I can obviously buy the book after it got published. I also have the newest Elsie Silver's book that's gonna be, I think, part of another series called Fever Dream. I decided to cancel it as well because I have technically three Elsie Silver's book series that I have not even started. So I decided to let it go and then not get it, right when it's published. Adversary to the Villain, I think that's part of the Assistant to the Villain series. I haven't even started that book series at all, and I already have the first 3 books in the series. That's what I meant. So I think I'm gonna just get this last book. I think this is the 4th one. Whenever I have finished and need to continue to this 4th book. Anyways, that is kind of like my dashboard, I guess. I'm usually here a lot because I like to update the books that I'm reading, and I like to track the pages so I can see like what's the percentage of the book I've already completed. And I'm pretty sure you might have questions about this page. So this is basically what I would put whenever I added a new book into my books database. So I usually obviously keep the title, the author, book type, which means it could be a book, a novella, extra chapters that sometimes authors have on their website, manga, graphic novel, nonfiction, and poetry books. I kind of want to separate them because when it comes for me to kind of accumulate or aggregate like the books that I read, it's just easier to see, like the book types. I don't know, I just like to do that. And I obviously have date started and date read. That way I could separate the books that I read by month. You'll see in a little bit what that would look like. I also have a format read. Sometimes I would read books that I borrow from Libby. Sometimes I would get e-arc from NetGalley. I also have physical arc. Sometimes they got sent to me by publishers. So I just want to see which format I use to complete this book. I also have own. It's kind of like an indicator if I own the book or not. And I also will do a calculation of how many books I own. I will also show you in a minute how that would look like. And then these 3 basically are just, I'm tracking the page that I read currently. Like I'm on page 87 of Caraval, and then the total page is 401, and then it's just gonna calculate the percentage for me. And then I also have obviously reading status column, so I can put this book on a list, which means I picked it for a TBR. I also put pause, which means kind of like a soft DNF. There are a few books that I am not currently reading, but I already picked up and like maybe read about 10% of the book. And all of, and the rest of them just kind of make sense. Currently reading, completely DNF, and done. What else? Oh, rating. I have 2 rating columns. So this one is where I would put the actual number, 3, 4, or 5. And then I decided to add this kind of like star rating. So it will look cuter and nicer in my reading journal, which I will show you in a bit as well. And then I also have a different kind of database for years. So I can add the books that I read into 2025 or 2026, and then it will also kind of separate the books by the year that I read them. And then of course I have a different separate database for series, so I can basically group them by series. And you see that I have a series tracker. This is how I would group the series of the books that I'm reading. And then I just put the series number as well, because sometimes I just want to make sure that I'm correctly reading the next book in the series. So I also have a separate database for lists. This is just to group the books that I'm reading or the books that I'm going to read into different lists. So this is mainly for TBR, like monthly TBR, and if I have a yearly TBR, or if I want to do like the Goodreads seasonal challenge TBR, I can put them and separate them in, the different lists. I have other columns that I don't really use that much. Publication date. I don't know why I added them here. I think most of the books that I have in my database, it's all empty basically. Genre as well. I probably will try and be better at picking the genre, but I have not really completed for all of the books that I have. I also added subgenre here just to see if I want to look at, how many books of sports romance or second chance or retellings that I read in a year. Like I said, I barely use this one. And then the cool thing about Notion is that you can actually add the link to the book cover like this. So that is how you can actually see the book cover like in here. Okay, now let's go to the books database, because yeah, this is gonna be the most complicated thing, I think, if you want to start a Notion reading tracker, because this is the source of everything basically. I kind of went over a little bit of all of the columns that I have earlier, so this is how it would look like in like a table version of your database. You can basically put whatever information of a book that you read. You don't have to do all of this, but this is what I find helpful for me to track. This is just all of the 2025 books that I read. And some of these blank ones obviously are the ones that I have not read. And like I said, most of them are part of a series that I kind of already put into my database, and then I just added all of the other books in the series. It's nice to have this database as well, because you can now also create new tabs and you can filter your books. For example, this is all of the books that I read in 2025. This is all of the books that I read in 2026. I read 9. And then you can also basically group them with the series as well. And now I'm going to show you my 2026 reading journal, which is this kind of like dashboard, I guess, or homepage, whatever you want to call it. So I kind of drew inspiration on what to put, like which blocks I want in my reading journal, just based on how other people who has actual reading journal, like what kind of sections they have. The first thing on the top that I have is my monthly TBR. It's similar to just like my books dashboard or block in the previous homepage. So I have my January 2026 TBR here, and then I have my February one and March. And then scrolling down a little bit, I use my list database to create this. So these are all of the 10 books that I put in my top 10 books I want to read in 2026 list. So it will show up in this block. It's just kind of like a quick overview of the books that I want to read, as well as some of the little information. So I did put the reading status here and also the rating. Like I mentioned earlier, I just like the star rating thing instead of like the actual number here, just so you can see which one of the books you actually rated pretty highly. So let's scroll down a little bit. This is also another list database that I use to create these two blocks. This is just the series that I want to start in 2026, as well as the series that I need to continue in 2026. I feel like for this part at least, these are the series that are pretty short, only has like 2 or 3 books, and I added them into my list of series that I need to continue this year. But I think I might actually look into the whole series that I have and see if there's any other series that I need to continue that maybe is a little longer and I don't want to put in here. Anyways, let's go down a little bit more. So this block is what I called my 5-star read. Eventually throughout the year, whenever I rate a book 5-star, it's going to go here. So for favorite books, at least for me, this means all of the books that I did not rate 5-star but I cannot stop thinking about. So one of them is Well Met. And if we go down a little bit more, this is again another list, which is my 2026 TBR jar. I can actually load more because I set it to only load 10 pages at a time. But these are all of the books that I added to my 2026 TBR jar. If you've watched my previous videos, you might notice. But I decided to add 50 book titles that I said I wanted to read in 2025, but I didn't, into a TBR jar. So these are basically the priority TBR that I want to read this year. And as you can see, I already read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books so far. I'm currently reading 1, and I have started 2 more books, The Husbands and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, that I'm technically pausing right now because I started it but I haven't continued reading it. Anyways, next, which is gonna be the last block, this is all of my kind of like monthly read books. So I have January here, I have February right here, and you can actually see the author, the star rating, as well as if it is part of a series. And then once I go through all of the months of the year, all of the months will basically show down here. And that is my 2026 reading tracker. I also want to show you a little bit of how my 2025 reading wrap-up look like, which is this one right here. Since I started this Notion tracker way after 2025 have started, I think I started this maybe in October or November, I decided to put similar section if I were to have an actual reading journal. So I have all of the 5-star books that I read in 2025. I actually had, I think, 22 books that I rated 5-star last year. And then I can also display my comments, my review. Don't read too much into it because there might be spoilers. And I still have a few books that I still need to type out and make sure that I remember, you know, like why these books are 5-star. And again, I do have a favorite books section, which, like I said, they are not 5-star, but these are the books that I still think about. And I also read a little, you know, blurb about what I thought about the books and stuff. And similar to my 2026 reading tracker, I also have divided them by month. So I have January, February, and so on and so forth. Like I said, I like how I can display whatever I want, like the author, the star rating, the series. I can even add more information into this little like card, but I think right now it looks fine. And that is my 2025 reading wrap up. This is how I plan to track my reading from now on. And I've been really enjoying Notion, and I just love how I can basically customize anything to fit my need and how I want to track my reading. Like I mentioned earlier, I will leave the videos that I watch to create this tracker. Let me know in the comment below how you track your book in 2026. Are you using the 3 apps that I've mentioned and that I used last year, or if you are tracking it some other way?